Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport, and I've just watched the Dutch Grand Prix. I've put my Marussia shirt on, and so now we are going to talk about it. And I have to say, this was by far the best Formula 1 race of 2023. This was entertaining throughout, and that might have been helped by the weather, but still we've had wet races this year and they weren't as good as this. The track helps. The interesting camber of some of the corners maybe presents more of an opportunity for overtaking in these kind of conditions. So I think Zandvoort and rain is a good mix, and that's something Formula 1 should keep in mind for the future. Max Verstappen, of course, won his 9th race in a row, equaling that record with Sebastian Vettel. Only Red Bull drivers have done that. That's something to bear in mind. Red Bull continue this incredible run, and Max Verstappen continues this incredible run as well. And there's really nothing else to say about Max Verstappen now. It's just been total dominance this year. So we'll skip over him and talk about everyone else because I have nothing else to add to Max Verstappen. Fernando Alonso is a fantastic driver. Second in this race and thoroughly deserved. We saw some very just outstanding overtakes from this veteran Spaniard, and he just seems to know where to put that car, and that's just years and years of experience. And this is another fantastic drive for him, and I honestly hope he gets that win before this year is out, because we don't know how long Aston Martin are going to be able to keep this up. There is a chance that this is their new position on the grid because they have spent a lot of money on their infrastructure and personnel as well. So it could just be that Aston Martin is now one of the quickest cars on the grid. It doesn't look like it in the hands of Lance Stroll, who was again out of the points. And he is so far below Fernando Alonso's level that it's just a little bit embarrassing for him to be his teammate. But Alonso is keeping Aston Martin dreams alive. This was another brilliant second place. He deserves his, I think, is he third or fourth in the championship? Third, I think. And he deserves it. He's so brilliant. It's just another fantastic drive from Alonso. Perez, I think, will be disappointed with fourth. He should have been third. It was his mistake to speed in the pit lane. I think he can be a bit aggrieved with Red Bull for undercutting him with Verstappen. But, I mean, from Red Bull's point of view, I think it makes total sense just to get Max Verstappen to the title as early as possible. I would then concentrate on getting Sergio Perez to second in the championship and tying up the manufacturers. But whilst Max Verstappen is on this incredible record-breaking run, if I was Perez, I would not stand in his way. I don't think that does you any favours anyway. And it'd be interesting to see if Perez is kept beyond this year, because at times he has improved, but he did make mistakes in this race again, which include running off at turn 1 when it started raining really heavily, and of course speeding in the pit lane. It's not all Red Bull screwing him over, he is screwing himself over quite a lot as well. So it was a messy race for Perez, and I think he'll be unhappy with fourth, but it still wasn't the worst performance in the world. Gasly, third, fantastic performance and some very entertaining racing from him. His battle with Sainz was excellent. He had to overcome a 5-second penalty in the pit lane as well, and it was a brilliant drive from the Alpine driver, his first podium of the year. I think it will help him. He's trying to catch Ocon at the moment. He might have already done it. I don't know how many points behind he was. I don't think he was too far behind, but Ocon did score points as well, so this was a double points finish for Alpine, and they have needed that. So fantastic news for them. And I was sort of thinking they were in a little bit of trouble with McLaren catching them, but I think they did outscore McLaren today. Norris and Piastri were kind of just stuck in the midfield for the whole race, and I think were they 7th and 8th? 7th and 9th. They'll be disappointed again, because I think McLaren definitely had more pace than that. We saw in qualifying how much pace Norris had. Don't know if it was just the strategy bungles and then getting stuck in the midfield, but we know they can do better. And Mercedes had a disastrous race by their standards. Hamilton had a bad qualifying. I mean, he's only 13th in qualifying, so he actually did well to finish 6th. But it's interesting to see Mercedes mess up strategy. And it was tough making progress through the grid, but then I think the weather played a part in that, and I think their strategy did sort of come together towards the end, and it worked out in their favour. They sort of capitalised on other drivers making bad strategy decisions like Yuki Tsunoda. But I think for Mercedes and Hamilton, I mean, I think the last video I did when I did a video about the halfway scores, like I gave everyone a score for their performance up to the first half of the season. And I said Lewis Hamilton was about a 6, which I thought was fair, and I still do. But someone did leave a comment saying, like, Hamilton a 6, really? Well, what's he done that deserves more than a 6? I mean, he's behind Alonso in the championship. Yes, he's ahead of his teammate, but it's still not that good. Russell has had the worst luck of anyone on the grid this year, by the way, except maybe Charles Leclerc. But Hamilton, by his own high standards, will be disappointed with a 6th place. But could he have done better? He possibly could have passed Sainz, but even then, I don't think he'd have caught Gasly at the end. But it's just it's just average. Mercedes are very average this year. Lewis Hamilton is very average this year. So I think 6 was very, very fair. And 6th place in this race is about a 6 out of 10 drive. It was good that he was above 13th and he didn't retire like his teammate. But it wasn't an incredible drive. And for Mercedes, they scored less points here than Red Bull, Aston Martin, Ferrari and Alpine. So Mercedes were the 5th best team on points scored. And I can't imagine they'll be happy with that. One driver who will be happy though is Alex Albon. Another fantastic drive from him. Great qualifying as well. And points on the board again. Albon is definitely one of the best drivers on the grid. Apparently he's been courted by several teams, and I completely understand that, because this year I think only really Max Verstappen and Fernando Alonso have driven better than Albon. Now, that's a big statement, and maybe if I sit down with a pen and paper and really think about it, I'll change my mind. But I don't think so. I think Albon, definitely the 3rd best driver this year so far. His teammate Logan Sargent, I thought we were seeing improvements. He got into Q3, but he crashed in qualifying and crashed in the race. He might have had mechanical issues, but even so, I mean, I've heard rumours of him being replaced, and I wouldn't be entirely surprised to see Nick De Vries in a Williams next year. Who else is there to talk about? I think that's all the point scores. I forgot Ferrari, Carlos Sainz. It was a good job from him, and I can't expect too much more from Ferrari at this point, because they look like they definitely have the 4th best car, but I don't think they're that far ahead of Alpine and McLaren. And so I think Ferrari are sort of in this place where they are in the 4th to 6th best car, and I think the drivers are doing their best. I think Leclerc really struggled, but if he had damage to his floor the whole race and he was just dropping like a stone, there was no point in him being out there anyway. Sainz, it could have been a podium today, but I think 5th is a fair result. Outside the points, we didn't really see too much from Haas. They were just sort of there. Alfa Romeo, I think they look really good at times. I think Guan Yu Zhou looks really quick, but he made a mistake and crashed. Complained. It wasn't really his fault, it was the conditions, but no one else did it. He did. Bottas was just down the back end of the field the whole race. But it was unimpressive from Alfa Romeo, but I think Guan Yu Zhou is at least showing a little something that might keep him on the grid. Haas, nothing really. I think Magnussen and Hülkenberg were pretty much down the back end the entire time. Don't even really remember seeing them all that much. So we'll end with AlphaTauri, who very interestingly we got a debut this weekend for Liam Lawson, and hopefully he won't be a one race wonder, because Liam Lawson is a fantastic driver and he's deserved to be in Formula 1 for at least the last couple of years. But he's been over in Super Formula doing a fantastic job, and he did a really good job on his debut weekend. Yes, he was slower than everyone else, but he did finish 13th. He was ahead of Tsunoda in the end, although I think Tsunoda ran into trouble, and he didn't crash. So that is a fantastic job from Liam Lawson, and consider that his CV on the table for a seat next year. I know it's because Daniel Ricciardo broke his hand and we should wish him all the best, but if Liam Lawson gets to do the rest of the season, maybe get a full-time drive, then I'd be happy for it, because I am a big Lawson fan, and I think he really, really deserves it. And so that is pretty much all I have to say about the Formula 1 this weekend. It doesn't really have any interesting championship ramifications, because Verstappen was dominating the championship and he dominated this race. And so that just continues. In fact, he's basically champion. Behind that, Alonso is laying down a challenge for second in the championship, which is fantastic to see after all these years. But Perez is going to be tough to fight off. I think Perez has to come good at some point, doesn't he? Like, Verstappen just can't win all the races that are left. That'd be ridiculous. So I'll leave it there. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave your thoughts down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.